Hi friends! Something big is quietly unfolding in North America. While the US ramps up new tariffs and tightens its grip on trade, its neighbors, Canada and Mexico, are building something that could change everything. A massive transportation route, bypassing the US entirely, is almost ready to launch. Could this be the start of a new trade era, without Washington in the driver's seat? But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We bring you the most urgent global updates, exclusive conflict insights, and accurate forecasts you won't find elsewhere. Dubbed the Northern Corridor, this new rail and port infrastructure stretches from the Pacific Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico. It's designed to move key goods, steel, EV batteries, soy products, without entering the United States. Analysts predict the US could lose roughly $4 billion annually in customs revenue. As a result, spanning over 9,200 kilometers, the corridor has already raised alarms in Washington. If completed, it could create supply shortages in American manufacturing, push up construction costs, and put a dent in federal income. It challenges the US's traditional economic dominance across the continent. The plan isn't new. Canada began investing heavily in its Pacific ports back in 2020, funneling $2.3 billion into facilities like Prince Rupert. Recently, Mexico contributed $1.6 billion to modernize its coastal infrastructure. These moves have laid the groundwork for a logistics system that doesn't rely on US borders. A key component of the plan is a digital customs interface between Mexico and Canada. This enables direct, paperless trade without passing through American customs systems, stripping the US of the ability to collect standard fees. Some projections estimate losses of over $1 billion annually in customs duties alone. Supply chains are already responding. General Motors has halted electric van production in Ontario, sending more than 1,000 workers home. If more shipping shifts away from US routes, this may be just the beginning. Labor unions have started calling the new tariffs a direct assault on working-class jobs. The bottom line is clear. Control over transport routes is now reshaping North American influence. If Washington doesn't adapt quickly, Ottawa and Mexico City could soon be steering the region's economic future. What's unfolding is more than just a transportation project. It's a reconfiguration of North American trade geography. By establishing an independent logistics chain, Canada and Mexico are reducing their economic dependence on the United States and asserting themselves as equal players on the continental stage. Experts warn that this shift could have long-term consequences for US influence in global trade negotiations. As Mexico deepens its ties with Latin America and Asia, and Canada strengthens its partnerships with Europe and the Indo-Pacific, the traditional north-south supply flow could be permanently altered. Private sector reactions. Major corporations are closely watching this transformation. Some logistics firms have already started rerouting shipments to take advantage of the new corridor. Investment funds are also pouring into Canadian and Mexican infrastructure, betting on long-term growth in port activity and rail freight capacity. Meanwhile, US businesses, particularly in border states, are voicing concern. Many depend on cross-border commerce, and losing traffic to alternate routes could hurt local economies, reduce job opportunities, and weaken regional competitiveness. Washington's dilemma. Faced with mounting pressure, the US administration is in a difficult position. Rolling back tariffs could be seen as a political defeat, but continuing on the current path risks alienating neighbors and accelerating their strategic decoupling. Already, some lawmakers are calling for urgent diplomatic talks to prevent further economic fragmentation. The bigger picture. The Northern Corridor marks a significant pivot away from US-centric trade models. It reflects a broader global trend. Nations are seeking diversified, resilient logistics systems that aren't tied to a single superpower's influence. For Canada and Mexico, this project is more than a workaround. It's a declaration of economic sovereignty. The coming months will reveal whether Washington can adjust to this new reality, or if it will watch from the sidelines as its closest partners redefine the future of continental trade. Beyond logistics and trade, the corridor is creating ripples in geopolitics. By collaborating on such a bold project, Canada and Mexico are showcasing a new model of regional partnership, one rooted in mutual benefit and strategic autonomy. This alliance is also attracting attention from other countries looking to reduce reliance on US US-controlled infrastructure. Nations in South America and even parts of Europe have expressed interest in plugging into the corridor's trade flows, potentially using Mexican ports as gateways to North America while bypassing traditional US entry points. If these connections materialize, the US may find itself sidelined in some of the very trade routes it once dominated. Technology as a strategic weapon. One of the most disruptive elements of the Northern Corridor isn't physical. It's digital. The creation of a secure, interoperable data system between Canada and Mexico means that cargo can be tracked, taxed, and processed in real time, without any US involvement. This high-tech logistics layer grants both countries not only efficiency, but control. This is particularly relevant in sectors like rare earths, semiconductors, and EV components, where speed and traceability are crucial. As the US tries to onshore production and reduce reliance on China, the loss of logistical control to allies may create unexpected vulnerabilities. What lies ahead? While the Northern Corridor is not yet complete, its impact is already reshaping boardroom decisions, national policies, and international negotiations. In many ways, it is a prototype for a post-globalization era, one where power is exercised through infrastructure and code rather than treaties and tariffs. For the US, this is a wake-up call. Either it engages with its neighbors as equals in a shared future, or risks becoming a passive observer in a supply chain revolution happening just beyond its borders. What's forming now isn't just a trade adjustment. It's the emergence of a quiet economic rivalry. For decades, the US has been the undisputed anchor of North American commerce, but the Northern Corridor signals a challenge to that dominance. By establishing a direct trade link independent of Washington, Canada, and Mexico, are essentially rewriting the rules of regional power. This move also introduces a new dynamic. Rather than competing for favor with the US, smaller economies may now find themselves with two major continental partners to choose from. The competition for influence in infrastructure investment, energy partnerships, and digital trade could become the defining feature of North American politics in the next decade. Economic resilience versus national prestige. While Canada and Mexico are framing the corridor as a move toward efficiency and resilience, voices in Washington are interpreting it through a different lens. Loss of control, diminished prestige, and a weakening of national influence. In an election year, this narrative has already started to surface in political discourse, with candidates warning about supply chain sovereignty and the outsourcing of influence. The irony is that the US once championed integrated trade across borders, but now its own protectionist measures are incentivizing neighbors to build alternatives. And unlike past decades, this time those alternatives are technologically advanced, capitalized by foreign investments, and politically stable. Corporate calculations are changing. Multinational companies are already recalibrating. From automotive giants to agri-tech firms, executives are factoring in not just cost and speed, but also geopolitical friction. A shipping route that doesn't risk sudden tariff hikes or policy reversals in Washington is increasingly seen as more reliable, even if it's slightly more expensive. Insurance firms, risk analysts, and sovereign wealth funds are all adjusting their models to reflect this shift. Over time, this could lead to a redistribution of capital away from traditional US logistics hubs toward Canadian and Mexican infrastructure assets. An invitation or a warning. Ultimately, the Northern Corridor could be a gift or a warning to the United States. It offers a chance to reimagine continental cooperation through fairness and flexibility. Or it could solidify into a parallel system where US influence is permanently diluted. The next phase of North America's future won't be decided in courtrooms or campaign rallies. It will be determined by rail tracks, shipping ports, data servers, and quiet negotiations between trade ministers. And as it stands, Canada and Mexico have just taken the first decisive step. If you want to stay ahead of the curve with real-time updates, in-depth analysis, and expert insights on global flashpoints like this one, make sure to subscribe. This is just the beginning.